I've got to properly bury, not trying to be morbid, this old season, even this old version of myself. And let it actually die off, so that version of, where it's like, you're like, oh, I thought life was going to look different. And it's fine. When people think different means, oh, it's not going to be as good as it was. It's like, no, we can optimize that version. Yeah. We can. And so I would say that to you is like, okay, what can I do? And then what are you willing to give up?
Welcome back to another episode of True Wealth Conversations. I'm your host, Dominique Broadway, and we are still here in Mexico, Cancun, Mexico, specifically at the Planet Hollywood. We are wrapping up the Wealth Demystified Retreat, and I was able to bring in some absolutely amazing speakers to speak to a few of my students, and one of them is James Simpson, who is a high performance coach and serial entrepreneur, not just in the online space, but also in the physical and brick and mortar space. And as you guys know, that's rare. People usually dominate in one space and not the other. And I'm really excited because he's going to be giving us tons of tips and tricks to get our minds right, so that if that's something that you want to do in the online and offline space, that you can do it as well. So thank you so much, James.
Thank you for
First of all, for coming to Mexico. I really appreciate that, on a whim at the last minute. And also just being here and pouring into our students. And they absolutely loved everything that you said. So for those that don't know you, what is it? I already done pumped you up. Well, what is it that you do? Who are you? And what are all the businesses you run?
So I'll say what I spend the majority of my day doing. I spend the majority of my day operating as a high performance coach for my businesses. Okay. So that's me overseeing them as a CEO, leading, guiding, directing, and for my clients as a consultant. Right. And essentially, so a lot of business coaches, they know how to coach people based on the one or two things or 3, 4 things, ways that they found success in their business. And they're like, oh, let me help somebody else now. And a lot of business coaches are business coaches first. So I was a entrepreneur for over a decade. Wow. And 7-figure, 8-figure businesses. And then said, okay, now let me go coach. Let me help someone else. And the ability to do that was just, it wasn't, I think some people think, oh man, that's awesome. And it was a huge responsibility. Yeah. Because I'm looking at someone else's, how they make a living and giving them advice. The difference between a high performance coach and a business coach is that high performance coach, that business coach knows those 1 or 2 ways. The high performance coach knows when to hit pause on things, throw it all away, optimize it, and say, let's start over. It's kind of like, I know you and I both have Mercedes, and when you get to the AMG version of Mercedes, they sent that to a custom shop and said, let's fine tune it, let's optimize it. That's the difference between the high performance coach and the business coach. I come to optimize things. Okay. I'm not here to build a business. I'm here to take what you have that's working. I tell people, if you have a fire, I will pour gas on it. I will blow it up. Okay. So that's the idea behind what I do, essentially.
I love that, because that was actually my next question. Like, what is a high performance coach exactly? And it's funny because, I will say probably over the last couple of years of me wanting to fine tune myself, right? And so I think a lot of times when people first start out, and I will say, actually was talking to Maya about this. I've never had a coach.
What? This is level of success?
Yeah, I've never had a coach. Yeah. Ever. And so that's why also I'm like, I want to talk to you, but like outside of like, I see the value in it, but I never had a coach because I felt like there were a lot of 5-figure coaches trying to teach people how to become 7-figure entrepreneurs. And I didn't like that.
It's not a feeling, that's a fact.
It's a fact. And so my thing is like, most of the coaches, and then you have these higher, like yourself and even like Amaya, who's hit 7 or maybe even 8 figures. And I respect that a lot more. And so I felt like a lot of the coaches that were even approaching me, or even that I was talking to, when I was even potentially considering a coach, they hadn't reach the heights that I wanted to reach. And so one of the things that I appreciate about you is that you're entrepreneur first, right? And so I actually feel that same way with myself. Like, I'm entrepreneur first. I don't do any business coaching, right? I get asked to do it, but I don't do it. I still feel like I have a long way to go, right? So when it comes to high performance coaching, who are you typically working with?
I'm working with, so I do work helping 6 figures six-figure entrepreneurs get to 7.
Okay.
They have the average six-figure entrepreneur low end is making $250,000 to $300,000 a year when they find me, because they're doing something. I'm not teaching them, oh, you got to get up and you got to do this. It's like they know how to sell, they know how to market. They're just we need to optimize that.
Okay.
And then my bread and butter is taking those 7-figure earners and saying, listen, how do we double down? But when I say double down, not more work, but how do we do less work in an optimal amount of time?
Yeah.
Because I believe that you can honestly, in about a 4-hour, if we're trying to get to 8 figures, you probably need a 4 to 6 hour day.
Okay.
And depending on if we have children, partners, et cetera.
Yeah.
But a 4 to 6 hour day, and we can learn how to optimize that. And then that operating business, the one creating an operating income, get that to 8 figures or take that 8 figures even higher, 10 to 20, 20 to 30 million, and then say, okay, what's my exit strategy, at least with money to go and do something else? Leverage that. So my one is grow and scale. How do we grow and scale? And after grow and scale, we go to leverage. And those are my 8-figure entrepreneurs, because that's all about leverage. It's like, what's the one thing I can do that can make 10 dominoes fall?
Yeah.
And a lot of entrepreneurs, when you're at 6 figures, you're like, I got to do more, I got to do more, I got to do more. And so you're growing. People say scale to 7 figures. I don't believe you scale to 7 figures. You grow to 7 figures. You scale to 8, and then you lead with leverage.
Okay.
So it's really, in my opinion, what that, and my opinion is based off of, almost 2 decades of experience.
Yeah.
So that's my personal experience. I'm not here to argue with other people and say you can't do it another way, but that's been my experience, and that's how I help people.
I love that. So I know you have the high performance coaching business. We'll get back to that. But can you tell us a little bit more about your brick and mortar business? Because I know right now a lot of entrepreneurs are so focused on the digital space and online space, right? But there's so much opportunity still actually in the brick and mortar space. So you tell us a little bit about your brick and mortar businesses that you've built.
So brick and mortar started brick and mortar in, 2009 was when I opened my very first brick and mortar. And actually one of the people, it's funny, who's in this room, it was one of my coaching clients 15 years later. But it was because, so my brick and mortars have seen the economic crisis, the real estate crisis of 2009. So the ups and downs of that. And one thing, I don't know if you guys, if you're in boutique services of any type, so you're a hairstylist, and I was a personal trainer. If you have any higher, and it's like people are using discretionary funds, you're the first to go when things get tight.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
People are, I'm not getting my hair done every week. I'm getting it done once a month or however often. And we're not getting as many pedicures, manicures. Everyone becomes the own jack of their trade. They're like, I'm going to learn how to do my nails myself.
It's like, yeah.
So people are like, I'm going on YouTube to learn how to work out. So I had to learn. It's like, well, guess what? My landlord doesn't care.
No.
Of those warehouses where we're renting space, he's like, I still want to get paid. So after that, we went through another economic crisis. And after that, we went through the downturn of COVID. People don't know this. I live in North Carolina. We're the 50th state to open gyms back up. The very last state.
Really?
Yes.
Why so late?
I said the same. I was asking the same questions to our governor.
So how long were your gyms closed?
Man, I blocked that out. That was traumatic. So to say,
let's bring it back out.
To say exactly how long, I don't know. It's funny because here's what I became obsessed with. I said, I looked at what everyone's doing. I saw gyms going out of business left and right. And I said, what do I do here? And I said, how do we grow? Everyone is down. How do we grow? So I became obsessed with, what do I do to feel my, and we're going to be losing revenue, but we can still grow in other areas. We had other verticals that we could grow within that business. Okay. And so I started looking for, to me, those are growth opportunities, found those growth opportunities. And our doors were closed for, I think, literally closed for 8-9 months. Wow. And we were doing outdoor workouts.
That's
we're doing,
crazy.
Couldn't say enough about my team of coaches. And I have a team of all females. So, and I say that to say, these are women that were carrying barbells outside, carrying mats outside. Like they were there. So can't say enough about my team of coaches because I wasn't able to get it done by myself. There's entrepreneurs have a mindset of like, hey, I'll get it done. No, I couldn't have got that one. Couldn't have done that.
We can do it all. Jack of all trades,
definitely.
Right? Wow, that's wow. And so how were you able to even keep things up and running when you had your basically your business shut down. I mean, I know you moved some workouts outside and stuff like that, but like, how were you able? Was it just like because you were able to? You had cash reserves on hand. You know, obviously there was money coming from the government to help businesses, but like, how were you able to navigate through that time?
So I'll tell you that. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because I was scared. I got on a call with my accountant. And we're on Zoom, you know, because no one can leave their house and all this stuff. And I said, "What's up with this PPP and this is and all the acronyms and different loans?" And he said, "Listen, I don't advise right now you take any of this money." He said, "Unless you have to." And I said, "Well, you know what my cash reserves are." He said, "What do you want to do? You know, why don't you lay some people off?" I said, "I want everybody to get paid full time.
Yeah.
Whatever they're getting paid, part timers, whatever, full time, and keep paying them." What do you, I don't know, but tell me how long we can do that. And so we were fortunate enough to stay at that through the entire pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then what we did is we launched an online vertical. And that was the first time we had taken our fitness online.
Okay.
And then, so we're now reaching a whole different demographic of people, and that's spinning off. I have another business that's going to be forming later this year, specifically to help CEOs to get fit. It's the name of the business, Get Fit CEO. Helping CEOs get fit. That's the program I have a program called Stage Ready. So it'll be helping speakers, et cetera, those people that are like, look, I got to get ready to get on stage. But it's funny because I believe, you know, out of adversity, out of pain, other things get born. And my brain that you've had two beautiful children. And if I were to ask you about that experience, no matter how beautiful it was, those contractions, everything was real. Woo. You know, I don't want to take anybody through that, but you know what that was like. Yeah. But at that hardest, most challenging moment, on the back of that comes one of the most beautiful moments of your life. And I think there are a lot of times in entrepreneurship where I tell people there is a blessing on the other side of through. You just got to break through. So it's like, you just got to go through that. Jessica and I were talking about that yesterday, just like some points in her life where it's like, looking back now, it's like, oh, wow. You know, but in that moment, you feel like you're drowning. You're just trying to keep your head above water. Yeah. And then when you're on the outside of it, you're like, oh, wow. You almost don't want to give yourself enough credit because you're like, I wasn't even that. But the fact is you're so much better for it. And I feel like that's what COVID did for us. I feel like that's what a variety of things. And the brick and mortar it's a different beast. Yeah. Because you have a 3 to 5 mile radius for the most part that you're looking at. So now these people, you know, it's like you go live and do all this, but you have zip codes. You're working with those zip codes. You cannot control, you know, it's like, hey, these are the neighborhoods that I want. These are the neighborhoods I don't. Sometimes the neighborhoods that you don't come through your door. And you're like, okay. And you take them on as clients. Yeah. And you have to figure out how to operate, which online space is like, look, my neighborhood is the world for the most part, or the US. So it is a different animal, but I believe it is one that teaches you quite a bit about sales and marketing and being the best, because you have the difference from brick and mortar is I have to deal with people face to face. You know, people dodge people on the internet. You run into them a couple times during the event.
We talked about this recently. People be saying what they want to say on the internet. You be like, pull up on me.
Pull up on me. And they pull up on me. And in brick and mortar, they pull up on you. Yes, literally, consistently. Yeah. So you have a different modicum of respect for entrepreneurs. I developed a very different respect for entrepreneurship, for customers, for clients, et cetera. And we call them clients for the longest. Clients means under my protection versus a customer, someone I do business with. Okay. So I've always looked at it as clients. It is my job to protect them, to protect their interests. So I've always seen it that way and done my best to operate that way.
I love that. So let's get back to this high performance coaching, because like this is something that I am very interested in. Like I said, I've never hired a business coach. Maybe I need one. I don't know. But I am very intrigued lately with reaching my fullest potential.
That's the question.
And I feel like lately, I don't like to use the word obsessed, semi-obsessed with it, right? Like I was talking to my therapist the other day and I'm like, okay, so right now, you know, I'm a single mom now, right? So I went through last year, just the tragedy of like separating from my partner and like navigating, like, and actually accepting like, okay, this is my new life now.
Right.
And what I originally had planned for my life isn't going to happen. Right. So that's a acceptance piece. And then now I need to restructure my day to day so that I can still attempt to reach my peak performance. And it's changed and it's harder. right? It's harder than it was before because now you have like in the morning. So before, right, my schedule in the morning, my nanny would come at 7. At 7, I go straight to the gym. I work out with my trainer. Boom, 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 right? And now things have shifted quite a bit. So I don't have the nanny that comes in the morning. I'm in charge of getting the kids ready, getting them out the house, blah, 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 blah. And so now it's like gotten harder and harder for me to work out. I come back home, I trade, and then it's like, it's more difficult. And so one of the things I'm like, I was talking to my therapist and I'm like, so what I'm doing every morning is like trying to mentally document the timing.
Right.
Like what time do I need to get the kids? Like, because it's like, okay, I get up at 6 and then usually I have about 6 to 6:45 by myself. So I use that time to get myself ready, maybe start preparing. They want pancakes every morning. Preparing their pancakes, cutting up strawberries, things like that for the kids. Then they're up, they wake up, they act like they've never eaten a meal their entire life, feeding them, right? And then while they're eating, I do their hair, right? So that while they're sitting at the bar table, the island, they're watching their little shows, whatever, eating their pancakes. I'm doing their hair, so I am like literally trying to optimize this time that I have because I know that if the kids wake up too late, the whole morning gets screwed up, right? And so I feel like I'm getting semi-obsessed with like, how can I optimize this time, getting back in time, getting back home in time to work, blah, 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 blah. So when it comes to this coaching and trying to reach your peak performance, for someone like me or maybe anyone else that's watching, like, what do you feel like is the biggest reason why, as entrepreneurs or as individuals in general, that we don't reach our peak performance at all?
So there's 3 reasons, in my opinion. And I'll just give them for people because some people watch this and then they just tune out. So one of those is the reason. So vision.
And I have ADHD. So
there you go. So this is for Dominique.
Yeah.
Vision, belief, and focus. So I see people that have a lot of vision, they lack belief. People that have a lot of belief lack vision.
Okay.
And then the people that, I'm learning how to master one or both, they lack focus. And so if I'm coming in to, because at the end of the day, we're getting money to buy back time, whether we buy back that time through people, employees, things, whatever. So when I hear that, have you ever seen the show? One of my favorite TV shows, it's fairly new, been on a few years, is Billions.
Oh, yes.
So
yeah. My ex was obsessed with Billions. So we watched it
all the time.
My ex Dion.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. So yeah.
Axe was brilliant in his own right. But Wendy came in to find these, and Wendy, you're the Wendy. I'm the Wendy.
Yeah.
To come in and put the screwdriver and just tighten that it's like, this screw's a little bit loose. When you tighten it, it's like if this chair were creaking, it might be one screw a quarter turn, but it's affecting, it's creaking, then it's affecting their experience because they're hearing it, and it just keeps going.
And yours, because you're sitting in a chair and you're not confident because it might fall.
And now I'm leaning a certain way, putting pressure on the chair, about to fall over. So that's what happens when just that screw is just the slightest bit loose. And I will say it, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I am grossly obsessed with being the best version of myself. Yeah. I want to leave this earth with nothing left in the tank. When you get in the vehicle of James called life and you were going to drive it after I leave here, I want there to be nothing.
Wow.
No on fumes. I don't even want it to turn over. Yeah. I want to have exhausted the vehicle in such a good way, not for myself, but a life that has definitely impacted, encouraged others to just become that best version of themselves. And not from a cliche standpoint, but from an actual, let me do this work. You use such keywords, therapy, getting help, addressing things that have slowed me down. And then in other words, you said actuality. I want to say that is in, you said my life it looks different now. Enough entrepreneurs, they're not enough entrepreneurs that accept change. And then when change happens, understand they have to grieve that previous dream that they had to go, I got to let this die. That's one thing that I learned. I lost my dad at a young age, and the most pivotal birthdays, a week after my 16th birthday, he passed. And so it was like, wait, it's the sweet 16. And then boom. So that I learned so much for the next 5 years of my life until I was 21 years old is where I was just understanding grief. Because there weren't as many therapists then. I didn't have the help and the outlet or anyone. So I had to really study, read, understand. And finally, when I worked with a therapist and understanding that the process of grief, and we think grief is just a friend, a family member dying. Things die all the time. Yes, and our seasons die. And before you can go and embrace a new season, you got to go, wait. I've got to properly bury, not trying to be morbid, this old season, even this old version of myself, and let it actually die off. So that version of, where it's like, you're like, oh, I thought life was going to look different. And it's fine. When people think different means, oh, it's not going to be as good as it was. It's like, no, we can optimize that version. Yeah. We can. And so I would say that to you is like, okay, what can I do? And then what are you willing to give up? Because I'm hearing you doing a lot of stuff running the hip. So it's like, okay, is doing the girl's hair important? Are we going to start doing braids for a season? Or could I have some
cute every day? Okay.
I can't say nothing about dogs. I've been looking at it, I'm like, I be feeling bad. I'm like, I'm a girl dad. And I'm like, now my daughter is getting fresh braids every week. Because I got to choose, we choosing what we doing here. It's like, wait. And she's not gonna probably want me in her head anyway. But that being said, it's like, but it's the choices, right?
Yeah.
And it's that time and it's the exchange. And it's like, look, so I think it's going, what can I optimize here? And what matters? Everything, optimization. I'm not the person that's just like throw money at everything. It's like the time for you in that relationship for your daughter and 5 years ago. I remember when my mom was doing my hair and she told me.
Yeah.
Priceless.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, even now, like I think about those times when my mom, you've met my mom. Definitely. She is,
amazing.
She is amazing. She is amazing. And she's raised me and my sister, and my grandma's the same way, to always look our best, right? And just always be our best selves. You don't leave the house looking crazy.
Love
and, I love that. But then there also are some downsides to that, right? Because then I started feeling like I needed to be perfect to do everything. But going back, looking at those times and the care that my mom put into me every day means a lot, right? And so even now, something as simple as like doing my daughter's hair, yes, I can do some protective styles so it can last a few days, but just that time and energy that every day that we have, and sometimes they hate me that I'm doing it, but like I am putting time and energy to make sure that they look beautiful. And then when they go in the mirror, I'm like, do you like your hair? Like, oh, mommy, it's so pretty. Thank you. I love that, right? I love that time.
Definitely.
It's something that I value. And it's also something that, I enjoy doing, and to me, it's one of the things that makes me feel wealthy.
And I think as a man interacting with other women and having a daughter, it it creates wealth, because wealth starts in the mind. Yeah. So they already see their value.
The luxury of being able to do this, like if we're late for school, it's not a big deal, but I don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
Like I am not rushing anywhere. So even though I want to take extra time to do their hair or whatever, I can do that. And so those are those things where, and I was talking to Jessica about this, but those are those things that even as a mom, you're like looking at the lives we built for ourselves. And you're like, wow. I mean, I know how much my mom sacrificed for me and my grandparents and my dad, but they had to rush to work every morning. And we don't have to do that, right? And so I'm rushing the kids out the house because I'm ready for them to go, but I ain't rushing to go nowhere. Like I'm rushing to drop them off, and then I'm just doing nothing. But I work. But you know what I'm saying? So that's a luxury too. What do you feel? Or what are some tactics and strategies, right? Because we've all watched Billions, and I ain't gonna lie, I've always wanted a Wendy in my life. And Wendy is like the high performance coach to all of these like billionaires on the show Billions. And so what do you feel like, what are some tactics or strategies or things that I can do, or people that are listening that can do, to optimize their lives and help them reach more potential?
Peak performance?
Yeah, just even a couple things.
So first of all, I would start without getting deep into it. Part of my morning routine, and I operate off a lot of acronyms, but is intentionality. Doing things on purpose.
Okay.
And maybe your morning routine is different. Like I have a morning routine when I'm going to one business, and I have a morning routine when I'm going to another.
Okay.
And they do differ, but They're
you probably have a
it's
different
by
orientation.
design.
You have your daughter. And
with intention. And all the, it's like, okay, I got to go this way, this day. But it's with intention.
Yeah.
It doesn't just, oh, well, I woke up when I woke up and this happened, man. And I did. Say, no, it's by design, did it on purpose. Things aren't happening in my, I tell people life doesn't happen to me, I happen to it. And that's important. It's like, someone's like, well, you know, so I got a question asked me, and I say this often at my live events. People are like, well, what do you do, you know, to get motivated? I said, I motivate motivation. Like, I get up to put enough energy out there so other people can have it. I'm not looking, and that's because I have a deep desire. And so after I would say intention is desire. What do you really want?
Do you feel like people are just naturally motivated? Like some people are just like full of motivation?
I think the people that are full of it know their deepest why.
Okay.
They wake up going, this is why I want this, and I'm going after
this is weird. And like, even like when I tell people I've never had a business coach, my motivation has always been so strong. And it's weird sometimes.
But you know your why.
I do. I feel like I feel like I know my why. And even when I knew that why before the why was clear. Does that make sense? Like I had an inkling of what it was. Now I feel like I have more clarity in the why. Because I went broke trying to fulfill my why. Right. And now I'm like out on the other side of it and I'm like, oh, I get it now. Right. I get it now. What I'm doing. And I'm still very passionate about waking up every day. And it frustrates me. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
I already know what you're about to say.
It frustrates me when people tell me that they don't have the motivation. And I'm like, tell me if I'm just being like an asshole. Cause I'm like, how do you not have motivation to get up every morning and make money or build wealth or take care of your children? I don't understand it. What are your thoughts on that? Cause that pisses me off.
I fundamentally agree with you.
Okay.
And I'm just now getting on social media.
Okay.
You know, I've been on it, but I wasn't utilizing it. So I believe comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah.
And people log on and they're looking, comparing. And so when you do that, how can you have motivation? Because every time you go to do a thing, you're like, oh, it's not good as Dominique. Oh, it's not good as this person. Oh, I thought I could have done this. Man, I had my little live event. And like your little live event, you just loved it last week till you saw someone else's. So it's hard to feel motivated to want to do something when you keep seeing someone do something quote unquote bigger and better than you. But that maybe that's their assignment. Maybe that's their life. Or maybe that's chapter 15 for them. And you're just now writing the preface for your life book.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you. I don't even think motivation is a necessary recipe.
Yeah.
Because discipline has to kick in and go, you're a mom, whether you feel like it or not.
For sure.
It does not. You do not have to be motivated to be a mom. No, there is no. Oh, I'm gonna be. I'll cook breakfast if I'm motivated. I'll do hair if I'm motivated. I'll do homework, motivated or not. The fact of the matter is, it's a priority. And if I interviewed 1 million moms, they're gonna say, "I'm like, you just gonna put your kids up for adoption when you don't feel like doing it no more?" No, I can't do that. That's crazy. That would never be an option. But we put our business up for adoption. We put our vision up for adoption.
That part.
We put our beliefs, our mindset. We put all those things up for other people to adopt them and use them. And then when they start to profit off of them and grow, we get mad. Well, that was mine. You didn't do anything with it. It's just like Child Protective Services. You're not taking care of your child. They're going to like, you're not doing what you, give us a child.
Yeah.
And that child is your vision, your business, your baby. And when we see you're not doing anything with it, it's like, well, you're not motivated to do something with it. I'll do something with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happens. And I fundamentally believe our thought processes are flawed around it. I don't think that you should be motivated. Look at your bank. I tell people this, by the time you look at your bank account, look around at your life, or look at your grandparents and parents. If one of those three things don't encourage you to go to the next level, because the only people that really probably would be discouraged are our children when they're adults. Because they're like, look, the trust fund got me.
Yeah.
So it is.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's another conversation.
We need a part 2 on that one.
Yes.
I'm like trying to figure that part out.
I'm trying to figure it out too. I'm like, I'm doing all this, but at the same time, I'm like wait a second.
Are we setting these people up for failure?
Yes.
Like, I don't know.
I'm with you. They'll do a part 2 on that one.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's like, if you want anything, if you don't have certain creature comforts or just the life you want that's designed the way you want it, that should be a motivation in itself.
Yeah. That's so, it's so weird. I used to always say, like, I've been with people or dated people, and they're like constantly just laying on the couch watching TV. I'm like, you can't afford to sit on the couch, bro. You can't afford. I can afford to. You can't afford to. So it's interesting. That's awesome. The conversation the other day. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, when it comes to just being consistent, like when I tell you, I've learned consistency is key. I am, and it's it's so funny because I'm actually not a consistent person.
Yeah,
no,
I'd argue.
No, you would argue because you don't really know me, right?
Facts.
I'm not a consistent person. The only thing I've ever been consistent with is finances demystified. The only other thing I've ever been consistent with is actually investing and trading because I started doing it at 16. But outside of that, I am not really super consistent with anything. Like I'll have sprints where I'm like, I'll work out for 8-9 months, things like that. But I am not the most consistent person. It's one of the things that I would say frustrates me most about myself. And one of the things that even as I selected my last partner, I loved about him. He was very, very consistent, right? And so, a lot of times you're looking for a partner, you're looking for someone that has that balance. Yeah. And it's not something that I feel like is my strongest trait, which is also weird because I am constantly motivated. So let's say even specifically with working out, right? I've always been naturally thin. So the motivation isn't always there. It's kind of like for me, I mean, right now I've gained some pounds, but like before now, if I go to the gym right now, I typically look the same. I'll be a little bit more defined, but I look the same. When I was in high school, I struggled with gaining weight. So I was always drinking like Ensures and things like that to gain weight. And so that is one area that I've never been consistent in, right? And so even little things like journaling, right? I'm the kind of person where I'll buy a beautiful journal and write in it for like 6 days.
And then done. And
then find it 2 years later. Literally, I just started writing in a new journal recently and I was like, wait, the last entry was in 2021? What in the world? Like literally that is me. So what do you say to someone? You
want to know the why?
Yeah.
So here it is.
Why?
So
what is wrong with me?
Why do I? So nothing is wrong. Very human. Okay. So when you want to fulfill that, what you're saying is I want to achieve mastery.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to be able to do what I've done in finances. Finances is fine. I want that. What I've done in trading, I want to do that in every area of my life.
Every area.
That is mastery.
Is that crazy?
So it's not crazy, but we have to consider the body of work. So when I look at Michael Jordan was a great what?
Basketball player.
Look at his kids.
What are they doing?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No.
Nobody? Oh, one's a...
I mean, I'm not knocking them, but they're not basketball players.
Does he have?
They're not in the NBA.
What does he have? A couple girls, a couple boys?
2 boys.
That's it?
That I know of.
What they do?
I think he's got some. I might have a
daughter.
daughter.
They don't really have to do anything.
But here's the thing, though. Your dad was the greatest, considered one of the GOATs, if not the GOAT. You would think they would be great at what?
Something.
At least, but at basketball, wouldn't you?
I mean, well, not necessarily though.
What?
I think something.
But if
I know they paid a lot for some schooling.
Exactly. So, but I'm guaranteeing your children are going to learn or know how to trade at a fairly young age.
Yeah, I mean, their investment portfolio is over 6 figures, and I didn't get that till over 30, right?
So my point. So there's a time and season for it, and so it's like we hear Vanessa talk about Kobe, and then Kobe missed a lot of things, life events, because he was totally committed to being the best basketball player, and then when he retired, he was committed. To what? Being the best father and husband. Yeah. So there's seasons to where you achieve mastery. And sometimes we want all of it at once. So then I say to you, okay, what's the focus? If you look like this, the focus can't be, I want to look cute, because you're going to look cute regardless. So the focus is, what about my health?
Yeah.
So we have to shift from, it's still going to give me the same outcome. I still got to go to the gym, but I go to the gym for a different reason.
Okay.
No difference than you were running your business, but you run it for a different reason when those 2 little ones came.
Yeah.
So the why shifts. Okay. And as the why shifts, it's like, oh, okay. This is it. So when you can shift your why, it's like, okay, I'm not going to the gym just to look cute. Cute is a byproduct.
Yeah.
I'm going for my health. I'm going for this. So I would tell you and tell everyone else on that endeavor to achieve mastery, you need to understand that seasons change in your life. Your why might change. And to go deeper. Why am I journaling now? Am I journaling because I want to write a book?
Yeah.
Am I journaling because I want to leave a memoir for my children? I want my children to know my thoughts for the next 5 years. So I have an email address I created for my daughter. I send her an email. So one day she'll be able to open these emails and be able to go, oh, this is what's going on. Wow, this was 15 years ago, 30 years. So that's the why behind it, you know? So as those whys change, you have to go back and address that and know why you're doing it. And then you'll find yourself the same motivation you had for the company, the same motivation for learning trading will then roll over in other areas of your life.
I didn't think about that. Very good. Okay. All right. Another question. Well, I got you. So when you talked about the grieving process, right? And so that was one of the things that I had to deal with last year. I felt like I lost, my partner. We separated. And then I also lost my grandfather at the same time. And it was hard because it felt like I lost two of the most important men in my life in a short time period, right? And so it was like grieving to the third power, or grieving squared or grieving cubed or whatever, and squared. And that was difficult, right? So what would you say to someone who, I lost what I felt like was, I lost my grandfather. So that's physically losing someone here in this human space. And then also losing a relationship and losing what you thought your life would look like over the next 5 years, right? I'm sure there's a lot of people that are maybe going through breakups or their life just changing in general. What are your thoughts on that grieving process of the previous vision that you had for your life? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one, because I'm big on staying in my lane, I will tell you one of the things I've experienced an unfortunate amount of loss. I lost my grandmother and my uncle in the same weekend. And it was my mom's only brother and her mother. Wow. So I was grieving those two people I lost and what my mother was going through. And I will say what I learned from all these experiences was, one, get a grief counselor. Get someone that understands and because they have a good grief counselor is also a therapist. Like I like that. You can't just find a counselor, but I found grief counselors that were therapists because they said there's how you process, loss and trauma and things of that nature, but then there's how you process it according to you and your personality. I'm a high achiever. Yeah. My foot's going to be on the gas. I'll feather it just enough. But don't tell me to just sit down and take breaks and go on vacation.
Same way. I'm like, I don't got time.
No.
It's like, just, we going to do this grieving, but I got to keep it moving.
I got to keep it moving. And me keeping it moving is that's what makes me feel good. Like that's what keeps me. I'm not depressed. I'm not stressed. I'm not anxious and I'm not doing it as busy work. I love to be doing,
busy.
Not busy, but busy in the right sense, So
active.
Yes, that's a much better word because I hate the word busy.
Yeah, me too.
But active and in pursuit of performance, in pursuit of my peak potential. So that being said, I would say, hey, find someone that understands grief, well-versed in it, and well-versed not just in experience of loss, but in how to help you move through it. Because a lot of people think you should just get over it. It's like, get over it. It's like, when am I going to wake up and feel good? It's like when you deal with it.
Yeah.
When you deal with it, it's kind of like, that spring cleaning. You got to get all the junk out. Then we clean everything up. Then we got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So it's a process. So I say, hey, you gotta look through that and say, I had something familial happen in my relationally, and then I had another familial event towards my future, towards someone I was building a future empire. Like it's like, so you have to look at that and go, okay, well now what does this look like? And then you got to create a new belief system that is lined up with a new reality. It's like, okay, where am I now going? And build new beliefs and new systems and new processes. Like you said, your day-to-day has changed. That are in alignment with where I'm now going. I say it's origin, path, and destination. Here's my origin. Okay. That's where I want to go. My path is changing. It's 100 ways to get back to Miami from Cancun. Yeah. And you might stop through a couple of different airports, but you're going to keep hitting those layovers. And I think right now you just experienced some layovers. Little turbulence. Yeah. And it's like, okay, let me hop back on.
A lot of turbulence.
But you don't let it stop you. You don't tell them, hey, I'm getting off the flight.
Ending the journey.
Right. So that's it. And then, there's people like, oh, it sounds so simple. It is a simple task, but a hard task.
And it takes time. I think that, a lot of times we all just want to flip the switch and make things right and get back to just focusing on, operating at our highest performance. And it's not always that simple. I think that was, for me, it's kind of like, okay, all right, this is happening. I want to get back to just being great. And I couldn't, right? Because you still have those thoughts. And it's like, no, this is happening. You need to address this. You can't just sweep over it. You can't just keep buying new businesses. Like, that's not how it's going to work. Like, you have to address it so that you can move on to be your best self. So,
and you become the better version of yourself. The sooner you do address it and deal with it. And in the future, as you address it, or people in your company or family deal with it, you're like, I know how to deal with this. I've navigated this before.
Yeah.
And that's where the experience comes in.
Yeah. It's crazy. Awesome. I love it. Crazy, awesome, all the things. Okay. So the name of this podcast is True Wealth Conversations. So I would love to know, what is your definition of true wealth?
Doing what you want when you want it without money being part of the equation.
Okay.
So in other words, and when I say without money, not saying, I promise myself, I say, hey, by the time I have kids, I don't want to say I can't do something because of money. Because if money's the answer, you don't have a problem.
Okay.
If that's the answer to the question, you don't have a problem. I tell people that.
Yeah.
Anytime I got a problem, does money solve it? Then it's not a problem. You just need more money.
Good point.
So that, to me, when I want wealth is a state of mind. It's not just revenue, but it's a state of mind. It's a place I get to where I'm like, okay, I am unbothered by any of these things because I have the means, I have the things to afford myself different opportunities.
I love that.
So that is, to me, it's all about that opportunity and the ability to do and make decisions that aren't limited by means or lack thereof.
So that's true wealth to you. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today. How can everyone find you and get this high performance, Wendy-esque coaching?
If Wendy Rose, and I don't even know Wendy's real name, but if you're watching this, pull up on me because I want to grab coffee. I want to have coffee. I don't know if it's with the character or with the real Wendy.
That's not her real name.
No,
it's not. But there's a real one because Billions is actually based off a true story.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I don't think that's her real name.
It's not.
On the show.
That's why I said, but I don't know her real name. So hey,
but Wendy,
the character Wendy Rose, whoever you are,
real one.
But no, you can find me on I am James Simpson. I spend most of my time right now on Instagram, and I am on YouTube, and you will find me at I am James Simpson. And I love people like Dominique. Dominique, if you've never met Dominique, very just cool, calm, collected, very laid back.
Thank you.
You're in the room. There's nothing loud. There's nothing boisterous. There's nothing that has to prove herself. She is, as much as I've described her, she is also a thunderstorm. And it's kind of like you're walking and you don't realize there's a thunderstorm coming in and it just comes. It's like, oh God, I'm caught in the rain, the lightning. So in other words, don't F with her because she is a beast. So
I appreciate that and receive that.
So you've never been chilling. You've been chilling as a black woman with natural hair. It's like, wait a second. And you got caught up and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what some people, I like that. I make sure people that are close to me, because when you tell people that they're sweet and they're nice, people tend to want to think they can take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have to remind you at the same time, hey, don't do that.
Don't try.
And you do, I still pull up on you,
Yeah. We've had to say that in numerous episodes. Meet me outside.
Meet me outside.
Don't fuck with me. We ain't
at all.
That's not what we're here for. Don't play no games.
Don't let a little bit of money fool y'all.
I'm still from DC. Don't play.
Round the way. She from the area. But thank you so much.
Start throwing these gang signs.
I know, right? Yeah. You were like, wait, what are they now?
No, I was actually born in Washington Hospital Center. Raised a little bit. Fort Totten was 8th Street.
Okay.
So like 4th Street.
Okay.
Off of Northeast. Yeah.
That's real. Yeah. Like all my mom's sisters, except for I think one right now lives in PG County.
So okay. Yeah, my whole family lives in PG County now.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, meet me outside. So I'm playing. We're not trying to fight anyone. That's mythical. But thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you. And once again, thank you so much for coming to Mexico and just really pouring into our students and me and everyone, all of our speakers that are here. It's so funny. I think a lot of times in the African-American community, we don't value the coaching. We don't value the mindset, involvement, I want to say, the evolving of our mindsets and the growth of our mindsets. And it's so important. I was reading something recently. It was like, I think humans only reach, like we're only using like 5% of our brains or something of that nature.
And I think it's the capacity, the lack of awareness to and desire to fulfill the utilization, the capacity,
but
and
also the not stretching ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and not like really truly adding all of the value and education that we can handle. You know what I mean? Like we can learn so much more, right? We
So
meet
much.
people that know 10, 12 languages or things of, crazy thing. And you're like, wow. And it shows me like how much more our minds can be stretched
Mm-hmm.
and how much more power and energy we have in ourselves. We're just not utilizing it. So it's something that I will say, I'm 38 now, but like over the next couple of years, that's really what I want to focus on, right?
Excellent.
I feel like it's something that rich people do. I ain't gonna lie. It's like, okay, now we made some money. Let's be the best person possible. But it's I've noticed it amongst everyone's like, oh my God. I'm like, Awashaka. What's that? Awashaka. Like, what you doing, girl? We talking about? We doing mushrooms, reach our higher elevation, go to the third realm and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. But
that's Axe did that. They were out there with the tents.
Yeah. What is it called? Awashaka?
What's I forgot. Don't get me
I'm messing it up.
But something like that.
Awawaka?
Ayahuasca.
Yikes, messed that up. But yeah,
I feel like we just told ourselves.
Yeah,
but
a
go
little
ahead.
bit. Yeah, but yeah. So I'm really excited about all of this, and I just wish that more people poured into themselves,
Definitely.
and invested into themselves, and it's really important. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, and also that you're doing it after already like reaching heights, and I love that. Like I appreciate that so much. So thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.